Hello, I'm Becher Townshend and welcome to the FontCast, Tasmania's top source of political news and analysis. We've got breaking news. Oh, well, we've not got breaking news as it happens. It's 3 weeks since our last episode and nothing of any real note has happened in Tasmanian politics.
Amazing.
How refreshing.
Yeah.
Well, look, there has been a few issues with the spirits, but that's just sort of run-of-the-mill these days, I think,
Yeah,
isn't
there's
it?
been no elections and no one's resigned, no one's been sacked.
Yeah, no one's been sacked that we know of, but yeah. But things have happened, certainly not at the frenetic pace we've come used to over the past 18 months in this interregnum.
Interregnum.
Yes.
Yes, I looked that up for you, Beach.
Thank
I
you.
like that word. It's a good word.
Yeah,
Actually,
it
I've got
is.
it here on the Google Net.
Yep.
A period when normal government is suspended. There you go.
There you go.
Perfect
it's-
word.
Yeah.
Like the world's longest caretaker.
Yeah. Between the reformation of the Rockliff government in September and the interim budget scheduled
That's it.
for November 6. So today we thought we'd take an opportunity to open the bottom drawer, as it were, and pull out a few things that we'd had on the run sheet. The good thing for me is we get to talk about local government, and everybody knows how much I love talking about local government. We'll take a look at the government's attempts to reform, again, just like budget, reform local government, which seems to be a perennial issue. And we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive into what I like to call Jerenomics. Jerenomics. Premier Jeremy Rockliff's approach to economic policy in the state, which may or may not segue into a discussion about,
You know what?
yes, the stadium. Alex, welcome to the show, and I think you've got some strong views on both those topics.
Oh,
What have you got to say?
strong views on everything these days, Beach, you know. I'm enjoying my new lot in life. No, I've been back in the newsroom a little bit, which has been nice, you know. I think I'm better at asking questions than maybe finding the answers to them. So I've enjoyed that. I'm very grateful to Win to welcome having me back with open arms. It's good to be on the FontCast.
Mate, when I'm out in the tools from time to time, it's great to see you there, I've got to say. So good, man, and I can tell by your general demeanour that you seem to be enjoying it. Right, first, there was some sad news in Tasmanian politics over the last couple of weeks with the passing of a man I would describe as a legendary political reporter, Barry Prismall. Prizza, as he was known to those people who knew and love him, was a gentleman that I worked with in the Tasmanian Parliamentary Gallery for about, I reckon, on and off for about a decade.
So what period is this?
So this would have been basically the Jim Bacon period, so from the mid to late 90s through to the early noughties. Yeah, and it was quite a time back then, back in those days.
And Prizzo was with the Examiner?
Prizzo was a state political reporter for the Examiner, and the Examiner had a full bureau in Hobart of 3 journalists. I was running the Advocate, which had a full bureau of 4 journalists in Hobart, which was fantastic.
Different days.
And they were very different days. And I think the Parliamentary Gallery was probably the most prestigious place to be if you were a reporter in Tassie. Definitely, I worked very hard to be there. And Priz was a cornerstone of that place. He'd been there for many years. He was a tall, towering man. And I did decide that I would name check a few of the people that have worked with Prizza over the years, simply because the world's changed so much, and it's just worth mentioning a few names. The challenge is, as Brad pointed out to me, if you name check people who you don't name check get upset. So with all deference to that, I've just got a few names here of some of the journalists that worked in the gallery with Prizza, and no doubt I know would feel the same way about the loss of a great reporter, a man who was always chipping away with his yarns, renowned for having a calculator with a random decimal point. I think it's fair to say, he'd plug in some numbers and he'd come out and it'd be $4 billion, and it's like, okay, this sounds like a lot of money, Prizza, but anyhow. But a few of those names: Andrew Fisher, Mike Lester, Martine Haley, Ian Colvin, Wayne Crawford, Simon Carney, Maddie Rogers, Rachel Fisher, Mel Orcock, Amanda Lovell, Simon Carney, Peter Dwyer, Stephen Daly, Nigel Tapp, Sam Meyer, Gerard Sholton, just to name a few. We all worked down in the gallery.
Well, that was the glory days.
Yeah, one
Throw
way or
old mate
another.
Hugh McLean in there too.
Huey McLean, who could forget Huey?
I saw him the other day. He hasn't changed a bit. No, he hasn't.
No,
He's-
that's because, have you seen the painting he's got in the attic at his house?
No.
It's of him all gnarls and it's
Right,
very
okay.
Dorian Gray's,
Right.
Hugh. But
That's
yes.
a good list, though.
Yeah, it is a good list. And they're
Gary
the kind-
Magnuson, probably.
Gary Magnuson, yes. Gary Magnuson, state political reporter for Win when I was down there, so back in the day.
And then who were Ellen Winnett too?
Ellen Winnett. I don't know.
It was a pretty glorious time.
Yeah.
Sorry to, I know you want to
No,
pay
no.
tribute to
Oh.
Prisma, but you're talking about the Examiner having a contingent and the Advocate. So different to what we have now, where the same story will appear in both.
Yeah.
Was that competitive?
If it appears at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they were very, very competitive days. And when you were the state political reporter for The Advocate, as I was, you were sort of the bridesmaid because the challenge was The Advocate didn't arrive in Hobart until about 9 or 10 of a weekday. And so what it meant was if you broke an
So that was
absolute...
Paris used to print it up in Burnie.
Yeah, the Harris Print Centre. And if you wrote a cracker of a yarn, nobody had read it by the time question time started. So you really had to work really hard. But yeah, no, it was fiercely competitive in the parliamentary gallery. There was no doubt about it. And it was a small, it was a small room upstairs at the old rear section of Parliament House. Many conversations and things happened in those rooms, if that makes sense, but it was a small, intimate place. I actually wrote the front page of the Examiner once for Barry Prismall, and I did that the first time he died. So there you go. So
Yeah.
Pris died at least twice. He died during estimates one year when it was a particularly intense period of time, as estimates are for those people that have covered Parliament. And he was having chest pains, and so he smartly went to the hospital and said, "I've got this terrible chest pain." Literally, they put him on a stretcher, put him on a bed, and he had a heart attack and died. So they brought him back to life, and so nobody filed a story for Prisma. So I filed a yarn and actually ended up on the front page of the Examiner.
Yeah, right.
And ended up on the classy spill page of the Advocate at the time, and I remember reflecting, perhaps I'm working for the wrong newspaper. But anyway.
And there would have been pressure on to have something different to the
There
others.
was,
You know,
yes,
it's not just a recount of the day in Parliament. You would have been looking for an angle that was different.
Oh, you're always looking for fresh angles. You're always looking for something. And then we had columns as well. So we all had our own political columns where we'd write.
What was yours called?
Townshend on Politics.
Very
actually.
imaginative.
That's original,
It was a gem, actually.
Got all those beach puns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have been anyway.
Yeah, there you go. But no.
Life's a beach.
Life's a beach. Yes, I did enjoy it. But look, I just wanted to, in reflecting on Pris, he was a tall man. I mean, I'm about 6 foot, and he was at least a head higher than me. He was a lovely guy, and I just reflected on the amount of journalists that would have gone through that press gallery, working for the Examiner, working with Prisma. As a state political reporter, and the amount of careers that were started or encouraged by Prisma, by his warmth, by his generosity, would have been, I would say, countless. I mean, it would be, I don't know how many people there would be, but there were so many people that went through. And Prisma was a staple of the gallery, I've got to say. Others came and went, but Prisma seemed to be there, during my time at least, forever. And he was a wonderful man.
Yeah. Well, my experience with Barry was sort of different to yours. Was after that. So he went and left the gallery and went and worked for Senator Guy Barnett. I don't know what prompted that career change, but anyway, it was Guy.
Sometimes we make strange career decisions, Brad. You know, you're happy as Larry in a newsroom, and next minute you're working for a politician, and you wonder, what am I doing here?
I did, because I was fascinated to know the answer to that question. And as you know, my association with Guy Barnett was that this business many years ago was Guy Barnett and Associates. I asked the question, and the response was, Guy asked. And when you think about it, sometimes in life, if you ask, you never know how people might jump.
There you go. Yeah, well, so I first met Barry. I was working for King Island Courier, editing it at the time in the early 2000s, and I met him vicariously via the fax machine. Like we just, back in the day, fax machines, fax rolls were quite expensive to use, and when the fax rang and started to spit out a fax, and if we weren't there, it just kept on coming, chewing up your expensive fax paper. Alex wasn't confused, but it was a thing.
Especially if the Democrats put out a media release.
That's right.
Then.
And so
a lot of times when I feel old, but I feel very young listening to that story.
Exactly. We used to get interminable fax messages from Barry Prismall, which were Guy Barnett's speeches to the Senate. Interminable, they would just chew up. Oh, anyway.
Yeah. You had to put in a cease and desist, did you?
Just about. I don't think we ever ran any of his stuff, but anyway, there you go. I met Barry in person a few years later when I went to work for Erica Betts. He asked. And I had I think it was my first day, I had a phone conversation with Barry. He was working for Guy. I was working for Eric. The two at that time were mortal enemies. Eric and Guy, because Guy tried to shaft him for priest, I can remember back in the day, Senate, that's right. And a very short conversation resulted in Barry yelling at me and hanging up. My first experience with him, I think, is probably reflective of his very strong nature. But then after that, I did get to know him pretty well, particularly from 2010 through to about 2016, 17, I think, when he retired. He was a deputy editor, went back to politics, was a deputy editor of the Examiner under Fiona Reynolds and then Marty Gilmore. I think that was the order, I think.
Or the other order maybe, but either way.
And I was with Will. Obviously, we were trying to win government, and I think fair to say that Barry was probably there was some bloke at TV station was a bit of a pain in the ass from time to time, but Barry was the one that really made us earn every vote, held us to account. He used to write interminable columns. You mentioned columns. Every week it'd be Hodgman's shit, Hodgman's weak, Hodgman's pathetic, Hodgman's going to become Premier, and write even worse things about the now Premier, Jeremy. And then around about 2013, he's changed, and he said it was a foregone conclusion that we were going to win, and it was that when that happened, that's when I knew we actually were going to win, because he was a very astute judge of politics and had been around for a long time. So, it was a sad loss. He was, I think, with due reference to the paper these days, I think he was the last great editor, never was editor, but was effectively the editor of the paper when what the Examiner said mattered in a political sense. It was a very different time. And I think when he left that newspaper, it sort of may not have been the cause of the change, but it was perhaps a symptom of the change in the print world.
Yeah, it's true. AJ, anything to add?
Yeah, I don't know Barry as well as you guys did, but just, had a great reputation for being a real political person. And it sounds as though, even though he worked for Guy Barnett, it sounds as though he was a pretty equal opportunity shit giver, which is good. I don't know, I've never heard of sort of where his political views lie, but sounds as though he gave as good as he, to both sides.
Well, I think that's the point that Brad and I were both making when he went to work for Guy. Everybody went, "Oh, okay." Because you didn't really know his politics. I didn't. Yeah.
A lot of reminiscing in the sort of slightly younger generation of journos over the last couple of weeks have been his views on hip hop. He wrote a very famous column saying that, rap was the lowest form of music. And I revisited it, and it is a terrible opinion. I know you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but my goodness me, talk about missing the mark. But a beautiful bit of writing. You should go back and read it, and that's the bit that was lost to me. I remembered he had this controversial take and doubled down, and we all sort of scoffed at it, 20-something journos. But it's a great bit of writing. We might be able to link it under the episode. But a really good writer.
I'll see if I can find it.
And I imagine if you were on the end of one of his columns, it really stung because it wasn't this sort of hollow, cliched. He could write.
And I suppose when you talk about authority in the press gallery, I suppose that's what I'm getting at, was he could write an absolute stinger of an opinion piece, but you still had to treat him, I suspect, from a government and opposition point of view with deference, and you couldn't just... Nowadays, somebody writes a shit piece, people just pick up the phone and abuse the crap out of you, and I just think it was a bit different back then, because if you abused the crap out of the state political reporter for the Examiner newspaper, you might have somebody bearing a grudge for a period of time, and that's what I'm getting at, was you had to, I think decision makers were forced to take those opinions more seriously from the point of view of, you can't dismiss this person writing this in the Examiner newspaper, and that was an important thing.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thoughts with those who know him best and love him.
Just one more thing, Beach.
Yes.
A reminder for pollies, and this probably applies equally when someone is passed on, also when someone is retired from a sport, whatever. When you're posting a tribute to them on Facebook, it's not about you. It's about them.
Okay.
There's no photos of you with the person. Always a no-no, because it's not about you. When you're posting heartfelt tributes, as I say, always best just to reflect on them, not what they might have written about you, even if that person's worked for you for the better part of a decade.
Oh, is that? Yeah. So I did see that in the rundown. I looked it up. I thought maybe it's been edited, but I thought it was.
I think there might have been some editing take place.
Right. Okay. Because I thought I didn't see that, but maybe there was an edit. Was there?
There was an edit.
Oh wow! Here we go.
Okay. All right. Well, I know.
Well advised.
Well advised. Yes. I know one thing that Barry used to write about frequently was local government. Barry might have moved on, but the issue hasn't. That's for sure. And I think if you pick up any political sort of rundown in Tassie, the names have changed, but the stories are the same. Over the last few weeks, we've seen a few efforts. I call them token. Well, I call them fiddling at the edges, frankly, to reform local government. First, in relation to the number and pay of councillors, not councils, that is, number and pay. And then more recently in relation to councillor behaviour. Brad, I know you've got some views on the second one, so I'm going to ask AG first. Alex, what's your view of the efforts by local government Minister Kerry Vincent? Token or serious reform?
Reverse Dixer.
Well, something has to give, because I think some councils waste too much time on things that are of no relation to the well-being and lives of their ratepayers. But I'm not sure how you approach that with legislative reform, because in so many cases it's just personality based. And I'm not going to name anyone, but I think everyone listening would think of specific examples in councils close to them, infighting over trivial matters and so often just driven by a bad mix of personalities at the time, and then people dig their heels in, and next thing you're talking about some meeting that happened 2 meetings ago, and you lose track of what's actually going on. So I sort of get the idea that if you reduce the number of councillors, make the threshold higher, a bit more money, so you're attracting, in theory, a higher calibre of candidate, but will it solve the problem? I mean, are all the troublemakers, in inverted commas, the ones that get in at the bottom? I don't think so. I mean, there's going to be personality clashes everywhere. And the flip side of that is some councils do a great job and get on with the nuts and bolts of it. So, yeah, it's interesting. So what is it? You reduce the big ones to 9, the medium ones to 7, and then the small ones like King Island to 5 councillors. I'm not sure.
A very small number.
Yeah, 5 doesn't seem, you got a council of 5, then suddenly you've got a lot of power in those 5, So I like Kerry Vincent. He obviously knows local government inside out, so he's well positioned to. The jury's still out for me. I'd like to see how it'll shake out in an election, but I think something's got to give. I mean, some people, constituents, are so poorly served by some of the drivel that's thrown up. And it's a shame, because there's the lion's share is good work and people thinking strategically, but we can think of a few examples where it's just nonsense.
Do you want to name them? Or
oh well, I mean, there's that Bernie. I mean, they seem to be arguing over things that have no, social issues, that have no relation to, rates and rubbish and roads and things that so
poo and parks.
Is that what? Sounds like the to summarise what you're saying. Once you get rates, roads, and rubbish right, great. Then you can look at these other things. But a lot of people
some of it's not even
prioritising these social issues above almost anything.
But just bringing sort of culture wars into the local government setting.
Exactly.
And there was, and is just, because any avenue to air your pet grievance, So I don't know how you legislate that away. It's about people taking responsibility and going, well, what was I elected for? All these things.
It's almost like it should be a matter for the voters.
Perish the thought.
Just on the size thing, I mean, I don't have strong views on that. I do think that probably 5 for some of those smaller councils is below critical mass in terms of a functional council. You really are going to be handing all the power to the unelected staff and the general managers, CEOs, whatever they call themselves, which I don't think is a good thing. And look, I just note the argument, which is that we are going to raise the cut the number of councillors, raise the quota, therefore somehow, this was claimed, elect better and more diverse members.
Yeah, I don't get the more diverse bit.
The complete opposite of the argument made to lower the quota in the lower house of parliament so that we could get better and more diverse members. Both those arguments cannot be true.
Yeah, no, they can't.
Surely priority is on better.
And I'm sure
everything else is...
Yeah.
I'm sure if we looked across councils, some of the real stars, the people that work the hardest, are probably the ones that have lesser of a profile but have got in and worked hard, and likewise some with quite high profiles have wasted time and resources. So I don't think you can say, all the bad eggs are elected second to last or elected on a countback or whatever, because, a little shout out to my colleague Ross Marsden. Everything is sort of cyclical in politics, isn't it? Because Ross is on the Launceston Council on a countback from George Razay, I think.
Yes.
Who beat Rebecca Pentland, who Ross and I were working for, so,
And George Razay was elected to state parliament with the lowest ever primary vote in the history of the parliament, I think. Stand to be correct on that, 2.4%. Incredibly small number.
Yeah.
Thanks to the lowering of the quota to bring in more diverse candidates. Anyway.
Right. Well, I suppose my view, I think it is madness to lower the numbers for the smaller councils. I think, personally speaking, the smaller...
You wanted less councils.
I definitely want less councils. There's no disputing about that.
Are we getting this by the back door here?
No, well, I've still got my little my little screwed up notes of paper. I was so angry about it when it was announced. But
do you move that from suit to suit? I've been wearing that same suit for 6 weeks.
No, it's
He's
the
just
same
got
suit.
5 different copies.
Anyhow, it's very handy. I like to write notes. Anyhow, my point being, if you're on King Island or on the West Coast, and we work with Mayor Shane Pitt, who's a great man, and I asked him once, I said, why did you run, Shane? I had a bit of time with him. He said, Beach, I ran because there was nobody else running and we needed a good mayor. And he said, so I've run. And he's a great man and he represents his community really well. He's one of the unsung heroes of the area. He's clearly not. He's in it because he's passionate about the area he represents. And I suppose that's what you want to see in any political scenario. Anyhow, the point being, if you're on the West Coast, you're on King Island, you're on Flinders Island, you're down in Tasman, you're in these small rural and regional areas, you have nobody to represent you. Here in Hobart, I've got Andrew Wilkie, I've got the government, I've got, do you know what I mean? I've got a whole range.
Ella, he meant to name check.
Ella Haddad, there you go. I've got Josh Willey, I've got all these people. But my point being, there's all these people who will stand up for Hobart and fight for Hobart and represent
Member
Hobart.
for Hobart, Cassie O'Connor.
Cassie O'Connor with a lovely new office in Newtown. But if I'm on King Island or I'm on Flinders Island or I'm on the West Coast...
Just up near the TCCI office.
Just up near the TCCI
Is that in Hobart?
office.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, I've had that confirmed. It is actually in Hobart. But anyhow, the point being that for these small rural and regional areas, they need a voice, and local government is their only voice. And so Southern Midlands, Northern Midlands, Central Highlands, these areas need their voice. So cutting back the numbers is just madness. You actually need more members, not less. And I do think it's just a smokescreen to pay mayors 40% more. On the topic of, in Hobart, here we go. Sorry, I'll be quick. So in Hobart, just to make the point, we have 5 councils: Hobart, Glenorchy, Kingston, Brighton, and Clarence. We have 5 general managers, and I took the time.
I think you'll find they're called CEOs now.
CEOs. Okay, there you go. More change. It's like headmaster. I got into terrible trouble calling a principal a headmaster once. Anyhow, there you go. I'm showing my age. Hobart City Council General Manager, $320,000 a year. Glenorchy City Council General Manager or CEO, $260,000 a year. Kingston General Manager, CEO, $300,000 a year. Brighton CEO, $220,000 a year. And Clarence, $382,000 a year. Okay, that makes top dog. That makes for a total biggest council for what it's worth. The second biggest in Tasmania. Total wages paid to just the 5 general managers of Hobart, of the Greater Hobart area, $1,482,000 a year, with a population of 93,000 ratepayers. Means we pay $16 a year in rates.
Is this a Barry Prismall decimal point calculator, or is it actually accurate?
I think it's accurate.
It'd be more than 93,000 people in those.
No, in the greater ratepayers, so houses. Okay. Right. Pay $16 a year just for those 5 general managers. Anyhow.
Okay.
Point being...
Which is like a cup of coffee these days.
Well, yeah, but the point being, do we need 5 councils to run Hobart? Seriously.
No, of course we don't.
No, we don't.
I'd pay 5 cups of coffee for my man James Stryber out there at Brighton.
He's worth more than $220.
He's a smart operator.
There's some great
big
general
Stryber
managers.
Fan here.
Yeah. No, there's some great general managers
I'm
out
sure
there.
that wages like that would attract, decent.
Look, I'm just
people.
making the point from an efficiency point of view. Do we really need 5 councils for the Greater Hobart area? My answer is no. But anyhow, let's move on. Right. Okay, so what about this whole issue of tut-tutting naughty councillors?
Look, this is the thing that really did get up my goat. It's this... There's already in place what they like to call a code of conduct across councils, and then there's code of conduct panel where various councillors can report their political opponents or personal opponents or whatever the case may be to this panel for wrong speak or for upsetting them or for saying something they don't like or for upsetting one of their constituents or whatever, which in my view it really is an abomination on democracy and on free speech, because what happens is councillors cannot speak their mind without the risk of being dragged through this quasi-judicial process, and we all are aware of examples of that. What they're now proposing, what Minister Vincent is now proposing, along with, interestingly, support from the local government association, presumably the leaders of those various councils, is that the panel, that there would be power given to TASCAT, that's the quasi-judicial administrative appeals body, I suppose, to dismiss councillors or to disbar them, is that the right word? Prevent them from running for council for up to 7 years for some ill-defined term of misconduct, serious misconduct, as found through the Code of Conduct process. Now, in my view, that is grossly inappropriate. It is a massive overreach of the bureaucracy and unelected processes into the elected democratic process of local government. If people don't like a certain councillor, then every 4 years they get a chance to vote them off. They'll have that chance in Burnie shortly, and I wouldn't be surprised perhaps if some of those people that have been making a bit of noise might get a bit of a rude surprise at the ballot box. We shall see. But that's the way the system works. I just think it's it is an affront to democracy, to be blunt, that the government would think that they can legislate to give the power for councillors to be removed via this quasi-judicial process. It doesn't even need to be illegal. Just gross misconduct, serious misconduct. Doesn't even need to be an unlawful act. Tasmanian Parliament, you cannot be a member of the Tasmanian Parliament. There's a few things. You've got to be mentally sound. Perhaps that one's not being enforced particularly well in a medical sense. You can't be a bankrupt. and you can't have been found guilty of a crime with a punishment of more than 12 months imprisonment. Doesn't mean you have to get 12 months imprisonment, but the crime has to have that as a minimum punishment.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why the government would think that there should be a different level of misconduct at council level as opposed to government or federal state parliamentary level as to why people cannot be allowed to run. I just think it's, as I say, it's an affront to democracy. And let's be clear, this will be weaponised to the nth degree by councillors who don't like other councillors.
Yeah. It already is, isn't
Well,
it?
but it's now going to be worse. It's like, I don't like you. I'm going to complain and complain and complain until you get kicked off.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
AJ?
Yeah, Brad makes a fairly strong case there. I mean, I think it will be weaponised, and it'll probably be even greater incentive to go after your political opponents. That's exactly what we want to get away from. You know, what I was talking about before. We want people to not put their differences aside. I mean, a robust debate's fantastic, but let's not take it too far, so that these personal wars overwhelm the issues of the day. What is a better way to deal with gross examples of misconduct, though, Brad? Because you've got to have
what's called the voters.
Yeah, but I mean, if someone gets, like we're saying, people with pretty low profiles are getting elected. If they repeatedly, I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but let's just say there's someone who gets elected and is clearly just flagrantly disrupting every meeting to the point where they can't function properly. Surely there has to be a mechanism in place for them to be removed before a new batch of elections roll around.
Absolutely not.
No?
There's the law.
Yeah.
There's the criminal law if necessary. It already exists. There's meeting procedures.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's up to the voters.
Yeah.
Now, obviously the media plays a role in as well, potentially in terms of holding them to account.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I didn't have a strong view either way. I guess that's true. I mean, and people have to take personal responsibility for the way they behave in meetings as well.
Well, I mean, there was the example cited the mayor of Waratah Wynyard, I think.
Yes.
Mrs. Duniam, related to Senator Duniam, I believe, made the point about a councillor that they said she was complaining we can't get rid of because he's been found guilty of a crime and we should be getting rid of him. So 2 points. Firstly, in fact, he did eventually resign due to public and media pressure.
Yep.
And secondly, he was found guilty of a crime. I'm not sure how serious the punishment was, but it was a crime. Way above the level of what they're proposing to put in place in terms of serious misconduct.
This is an arbitrary definition, and that's the challenge. The other point I'd make is, these code of conduct kind of processes seem to be, a lot of time and a lot of energy is spent on, I'm going to move a code of conduct against him or her, and I'm going to do this and they do this, and then, it failed, but I'll get them. And it's just counterproductive. It's counterproductive to the entire process. And when you say, members get elected to local government with not many numbers and not much profile, that's because we have so many local governments and you don't need a lot of votes to get elected, AJ. Anyhow, we'll just move on.
But that's the reform tries to address that. It raises the threshold.
Well, this is the problem with the reform, is it dances around the reality of the issue with local government, and the reality is we have too many local governments in Tasmania, and you can sit and fiddle at the edges and do whatever you want with reducing numbers and paying mayors more and bringing in this kind of potentially kangaroo court to get rid of the people you don't like, but the fundamental is we are grossly overgoverned in Tasmania.
Will they get through these reforms?
Well, I hope not.
We'll see.
We shall see.
Anyhow, with that, we just have
we'll send this episode of the FontCast as a submission, shall we?
As a submission, yes. All right. With the time left we had, I just wanted to look at a bit at what I earlier called Jerenomics. That is the economic policies of the Rockliff Liberal government.
You don't necessarily, it sounds a bit derogatory, but you don't necessarily mean it in that way. I mean, we've had Bidenomics, okay, that was shit, but we've had Reaganomics, that was great.
Yeah.
we do often get terms used to describe the economic policies of government.
Thatcherism.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Yes.
even better. So there we go. All right. Yes. No. Look, I'm just more making. I'm trying to more make the point that there's a style here. That there's something going on. And I suppose it was sparked from my perspective by the government's determination to proceed with the stadium, despite, shall we say, any economic evidence to.
What about John Perry?
Oh, well, yes.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah, we do need to talk about that. But there's also been a long list of bailouts by this government, okay,
Over recent.
over recent times. NISTAR,
Near
Nearstar, my apologies, Boyer, Liberty Bell Bay, someone's laughing all the way to the bank there, and Bell Bay Aluminium have got their hand out. The Hobart Clinic has been offered $2 million bailout. I'm told that they now need 2.4. So
That seems like the outlier in that group. That
yeah,
you just listed
No,
there,
it
Becher.
definitely does. It definitely does.
Yeah.
But it's a pointer to a greater issue.
That
And
they're willing to spend money to keep something
yeah,
going.
Yeah, and I well, anyhow, I'll have my say in a moment. Brad, what's your take on it all?
Well, you could add to that list, King Island tungsten mine,
Yep.
which the government, we basically all now own.
Yes.
King Island Dairy. There is a long list.
They spend lots of money on events too. I'm not saying they shouldn't.
That's true.
But they
do.
pump a lot of money into events as well to keep them going. So a government that, and looking at the budget, has not been afraid to spend money.
That's, I suppose, your point in terms of
Yep.
Jerenomics. But
Yep.
before we go
Yep.
there, stadium, John Perry,
Yep.
beach. So over the weekend, the Coordinator General, or the General, as I like to call him,
The General.
John Perry, released his own report on the economic benefits of the stadium, raised a few eyebrows. He found the stadium will deliver $5 for every $1 invested. Pretty big difference. Barry Prismall's calculated a 10 times difference to the 50 cents for $1, which basically every other report's found, or less than. So
Yep.
did raise a few eyebrows.
I like the way it sort of came about. That he just
manifested.
Woke up one
felt
day,
compelled to do it. Do you think that's that's true? No one encouraged him to.
I'm
or?
assured. The way it's been described to me, I'm assured he did it off his own bat. The fact that he works for state government had no impact on his decision to do it off his own bat, and also come out with a glowing endorsement of the state government's policy. And to his credit, he's put a view out
He
there.
has, and I think as someone pointed out, actually it was Shannon again. Hello, Shannon. Labor likes him again now.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
okay.
because they wanted to sack him the last election
Yeah.
and the one before that and the one before that. But this
Oh,
time
we were
no-
going to get rid of
You're
him.
going to get rid of him.
Yeah.
This
When-
time it's like
No,
crickets.
He's back.
Yeah, no, and look, I sort of am a bit facetious, but we had a briefing on King Island actually with John Perry, and I found him very impressive. That
Yeah.
was the first time I'd dealt with him, and when we were in opposition, we were going to get rid of him, but so Labor's back on board now.
They love him now. Whoa, I haven't heard they want to sack him.
A difference of opinion is a good thing to have out there.
He used a slightly different methodology, legitimate methodology. I found out by Googling, but a slightly different one to get a very different answer. No doubt we'll hear a lot more about his analysis during the debate, I
Yes.
suspect.
Yes.
But Beach,
Yes.
the thing
Brad.
that raised eyebrows more, I know you want to talk about this, raised eyebrows more than John Perry's report was the TCCI, the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, of which you are a director.
I am. Yes, that's correct.
Elected director. Seems to me TCCI is still sitting on the fence. So this week, the TCCI sent a letter to the Public Accounts Committee, Parliament, the powerful, what's always called powerful when you want it to be, asking the committee to consider not just Stadium, Mac Point Stadium, but also 2.0 and also 3.0, but is that actually 0.5? Did that come first? I think it did.
It did, actually. 2019, actually.
The third proposal.
Yeah.
I mean, where is the TCO? You're all over the place like a cow lost in the paddock. What's going on?
Well, I don't mind saying it's been a fraud issue for the TCCI. I think, as it has for much of the community, as a director of the TCCI, I have a simple rule of thumb, right? Simple. If it's good for business, then it's good for the membership of the TCCI. So that's the underneath bit, and that's why I think a few eyebrows have been raised when we start questioning the stadium or stadia. And I have no doubt the stadium, and I may leave myself open for attack on this one, but I will say it, the stadium will be good for those businesses involved in its construction. Undoubtedly, with some ancillary benefits that it'll bring. Okay.
Which are argued about as to how big those benefits are.
Yes.
Are you sure you want to say that? Because we got some fan mail after the last episode, and shared this with you, Alex, where someone sent a big, long missive in saying how much they loved FontCast. Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the feedback. Yes. And
then after about a quarter of the way through, proceeded to criticise you, Beach, for you saying the stadium would be good.
Look, of course it will. Even the Tasmanian Public Service can't spend $1 billion plus without accidentally generating some form of economic activity. You can't. It's got to go somewhere, unless it's going in a brown paper bag and disappearing overseas. So long and short of it is, you will get economic activity out of it. On the other hand, the stadium is going to cost the government and us $1.3 billion and counting. And I hold genuine concerns as a state. We can't afford it, okay? Or perhaps more accurately, that the only way it will be paid for is ultimately higher taxes, which is not good for business, and it's not good
selling something.
Yeah. Well,
that's been and gone.
Well,
okay.
I'm afraid that ship has left the wharf. But my point being, that's not good for business, okay? Everybody goes, why is it all about business? Well, those businesses generate wealth and they generate jobs here in Tasmania. And if you hear any theme that comes out from Becher Townshend regarding this is we need industry to generate jobs and wealth for this fine state, okay, so that we can stand on our own 2 feet as a state and be proud of what we do, not constantly having our hand up to federal governments. So I'll just finish this if I may, AJ. So it's in that context that the board decided we should have a look closely at all 3 proposals and see whether there was a more cost-effective way forward. Okay?
So does that mean you're a stadium, not the stadium?
Well,
are you in the sometime Labor Party camp here?
Yeah, well, I suppose you could say that. If, as we've predicted, the stadium passes the Parliament in early December...
Which it will.
I'm sure I'm confident, he says,
guessing the views of your fellow directors,
that we will swing in behind it. Albeit, we will hold the government very strongly to their pledge on no tax increases, and we will also push very strongly, and this is an organisation that's already using interstate architects and already using interstate law firms, and last time I looked, we have Tasmanian architects and we have Tasmanian law firms, we even have Tasmanian PR companies. Perish the thought.
I'm sure we're at the top of the list.
No, I don't think we're at the top of that list. But my
Could
point...
shut you up.
Well, there you go. That's food for thought, isn't it? What price, Brad? Anyhow, but my point being, we will be pushing as an organisation very hard to make sure, if we're going to build the stadium, that those benefits are maximised here in Tasmania. If we're going through all this pain, all this community division, everything we are going through for what some people believe will be a wonderful thing at the end and give us priceless outcomes in terms of, the look on a kid's face when they see a footy star kick a ball and those kind of things, then I want to see the benefits, the economic benefits here in Tasmania, and that's pushing for local jobs for Tasmanian businesses and Tasmanian jobs.
So without disclosing who's saying what, is that the friction in the TCCI at the moment, pro-development running up against fiscal responsibility? Is that sort of the 2 arguments?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, you've got to remember during the election campaign, we definitely put ourselves out there by supporting Dean Winter's position in terms...
Boldly going where no one else went.
Yes, that's exactly right. And everybody else feared to tread, I might add. But we went out there on Dean Winter's economic sustainability mantra in terms of budget management.
Which lasted about 3 weeks.
Well, There you go.
Yeah.
You know, but at least he did it, and at least he said it. And what are we hearing about now? It's all we're going to hear about. Ironically, after the election, it's the only thing that the government's now talking about, because we needed it then, we need it now.
What about the argument that by opening the door to another stadium, you are completely undermining Mac 1, and it's sort of a sneaky way of just sort of, I guess, putting a cloud over a project that you're not sure about? Not you personally, like anyone who... Because is 2.0 really feasible at the moment?
I feel like it's 6-9 months ago. That's my sense. I think that the train's moved on, hasn't it?
Well, I feel like it has. I feel like the window has shut. I mean, for all of your criticisms of Macquarie Point, it's a lot further down the road than any other proposal. And it's the one with the backing of the state government, federal government, and the AFL. So,
I don't...
Is it...
Look,
like, why... I get what you're saying. You're looking for a better value deal, but has the horse bolted?
Well, you know, there's definitely some who would argue on 2.0 the horse is well and truly bolted. There's definitely some who say it wasn't even really a goer to start with. 3.0 or
0.5, I think.
0.5, whatever it is an alternative idea, right? It's not as
Is that
well...
the one without a roof?
Yeah, it's not as well developed, but it does highlight the point that the design that we're now looking at, or the 70% design, seem to be a lot of renders, might not necessarily be the be all and end all. But the reality is, you know, we've written a letter to the PAC. The PAC's got the letter. You know, the political process will continue, and as I say, at the end of the day, I suspect that, as we predict here, the stadium will be approved, and as a pro-business organisation, we will step in and accept that and seek to hold the government accountable for the construction of that and make sure that the community gets the best benefits it can. And I have no problem with that position. I have no qualms with making sure that we maximise the opportunity for Tasmania.
Do you still think it'll get through easy? You don't think that... I mean, some independents might think, well, the TCCIs obviously remain sceptical. Why shouldn't I? I mean, that's legitimate.
Yeah, it's a legitimate question, but I've clearly stated before, and I clearly state again, I don't think there's an independent member of the Legislative Council that's going to knock it over and be held accountable for that. I think the reality is, the reality is it'll go through, right? And, you know, the suggestion that because we referred it to PAC, right, that therefore, you know, this jeopardises the whole project. Well, you know, the government's used every tool in the shed so far to get it through, right? You know, including overturning a TPC decision on it. So, you know...
Yeah, I mean, with due deference to the immense power of the TCCI, I would be surprised if the PAC accepts your advice.
Yes, I don't even think they'll vote to investigate it.
When we ran through who was for and against, especially in the upper house, have you guys got any feedback from people saying we might have got it wrong?
No.
Well, that's interesting.
Nope, none at all.
No, I haven't. No.
And no feedback about the little bombshell.
For the record, Becher, I didn't check with Becher on this, and viewers and listeners.
I got a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah, well, just for you may have got feedback, but for the record, Mr. Townshend, who made the bold claims, tells me the only feedback he's had is that he was accurate.
Confirmed.
Right.
Yes.
Well, no, other people very close to the source. This is, of course, for those who might have missed last time or forget what we're talking about, Becher talked about who inside Labor argued for a different position on the stadium rather than backing in the government, and suggested that even the former leader, Dean Winter, I had that told to me that is just untrue.
Okay.
So
there you go.
But it may well be in those people's interest to
I think I saw.
dispute
Did I see
that,
in your
so.
diary, Becher, you had a recent catch up with the former leader?
I did. Yeah. Anyhow.
It didn't. Okay.
He
there
didn't.
you go.
Anyhow.
Right.
Let's
I'm glad that's been cleared
I'm
up.
sure it was a spirited debate. Actually, I got feedback from someone that there was someone you left off the list as well, who wanted it known that they might be a bit sceptical.
Now's your chance.
Not for me to say.
Just text me after.
It goes both ways, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it does.
Were they upset about being left off the list?
Yeah.
Apparently someone thought they might have deserved a spot in the quartet of scepticism. Yeah.
Very good.
All right.
Well, I think there's an old rule in journalism. If you say it or you write it and they don't tell you what's wrong, it was right.
Yeah.
Now, glad that's all been cleared up. The
Thank
TCCI,
you.
clear as mud. Thank you very much. I'm conscious of time.
Yes.
So back quickly just to this original proposition, Beach, about Jerenomics and the economic policies of this government. Look, I mean, I've joked for years, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, that Jeremy's, more an agrarian socialist than a liberal, and he's a farmer from Northwest Coast. But I actually think what we're seeing from Jeremy, and in terms of all these bailouts, it's more political pragmatism than it is Jerenomics. It's sort of squeaky wheel economics. It's the King Island handshake, which became the Tasmanian farmers handshake, which I think really is the Tasmanian handshake, which is, my business is going bust. Please, sir, may I have some more? And, Tasmania's a small place. When you've got businesses talking about lots of jobs, or you've got unions running a campaign very loudly on behalf of a clinic which is going to close and going to cause a lot of pain, then it's very hard for a government of any colour to resist. And, I think that's really what defines that, as opposed to an deliberate economic strategy.
Yeah. And they're very good, whether that be unions or campaigns generally, very good at putting it at the feet of the state government. The Hobart Clinic's a great example. A private clinic, yes, the state government had made a contribution, but the heat was entirely on the Premier and the Health Minister. Not much pressure on the federal government to put their hand in its pocket. Now, it would be argued that, well, this is a state issue, but I, when I was in the newsroom, saw comment from the federal government on the issue. They didn't even reference the Hobart Clinic in their lines, got the most bland lines back, right? And obviously, in the end, the Premier and the Health Minister gave in to that pressure. But, it always seems to come back to the state government. What's the state government going to do? And that's maybe a symptom of the way that the public sees things or the media sees things. And so... Well,
it's also a symptom of Jerenomics.
That he's good for it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, look,
as soon as they opened the door even slightly on the Hobart Clinic, you knew they were eventually going to give money.
Well, and
a round table,
Yeah. But I mean, look closely at Rio.
And look, I think it's a good decision, because I think the unions made the case brilliantly that having the Hobart Clinic open saves the state government money.
Absolutely.
And the public system is no place for... credit has to go to the patients who have spoken out.
Well,
speaking out about your own mental health and mental illness is a hugely significant thing, and to do that to try and get a good outcome.
Yeah.
But the public system, emergency department's not a place for people who are suffering like that. So I think the state government's made a good move. Interesting that it hasn't been agreed to. There's a meeting on Monday.
Please, sir, may we have some more?
Well, they want 400,000 more for some sort of feasibility study. Maybe that's where the feds can come in. But it hasn't been agreed to straight away.
Well, and I
presume it will.
Well, let's hope it does, for all the reasons that you've explained. And there's obviously merit to these things, particularly in that case, in my books. But if you look, I took the time, as a board member of the TCCI, to look...
Doing your job, good.
Doing my job, to look closely at Bell Bay Aluminium, who seem to be trying to negotiate a power deal with Hydro. I think anecdotally we've always understood that that's been a fairly good deal. Once it was described to me what's the best way to export power from Tasmania. The closest thing to do it is as aluminium ingots, because it's so power hungry. They've got their hand out for some money, and there's over 500 jobs. And 500 jobs is a number. It's like you go out to Incat. There's 500 jobs out there. That's a number that's going to have an impact on the economy, particularly on Georgetown. But just for the record, Rio, who owns Bell Bay Aluminium, made $11.6 billion in 2024. Okay, 11.6, and the 6 months to June, $4.5 billion. Okay, so that's how profitable that organisation is. And it was noted in that profit announcement that the area that was growing in terms of its contribution to their bottom line was aluminium. So you've really got to say to yourself, well, hold on, is Bell Bay aluminium going broke? And we give them pretty well, I'll say cheap power. Or are they just looking at the other organisations, the NiStars, the
once
Liberties?
One got the bailout, then they're all going to start
exactly
looking.
right.
That's what's happened, isn't it?
Yeah. So
But who's going to be brave enough to stare that down? I mean, it's a risk, isn't it? You know, Premier of the Day is saying, "I'm going to call you bluff."
it is a risk, but at what point do we do it, and what point don't we do it? And this is the challenge, and this is the challenge of office.
This is my concern. I mean, I'm a believer in the private sector and small government and government getting out of the way, not getting in the way. But I'm concerned that we're loading the state up with more and more debt, more and more spending as we keep on bailing these companies out. We use GBEs to try and hide the money. We're using Mac Point Corporation to try and hide the $1 billion we're going to put on the books for the stadium. It's not real debt, it's somewhere else. It's all debt.
Yep. State growth's now funding the health budget.
That's right.
Which I don't get.
That loan.
That business grant, isn't it?
Business grants come out of state growth.
Yep.
And good luck to ever get that $20 million back from a Liberty Bell Bay. That is, you may as well dug a hole and put that in the bottom.
That ship has sailed
gone
as well.
And so we've got this situation. We're supposedly going through a period of budget austerity, or about to. Eric's running around with his little razor trimming things off their side.
Abacus.
But at the same time, we're spending all this money.
Time to turn the tap off, you think? Would you be bold enough to do it if you were the Premier's Chief of Staff right now? Would you say, okay,
we did it
line in the sand?
I'll go back and check the record. We did it in 2014. We did. And it was,
who'd you say no to?
It was painful. Well, we said no to Leo Schofield for a start. Remember that? The Baroque Festival? But what that actually did... No,
and all the jobs that went with the Baroque Festival, that's not quite 500 jobs.
You asked the question. Let me finish. But what that did was that sent a signal that we weren't a bottomless pit of money. And then I think subsequently we said no to the little red mini Spirit of Tasmania thing that was going across the Mersey that you finally swam across a few years later. Remember that? But what that did was...
I don't think the ferry would have been able to get across where I got across. I picked the narrowest strip of the Mersey there.
But what that did was it sent a message that we weren't going to spend, and we stopped spending, and then people didn't ask.
Yes.
They didn't ask. We didn't get these bailout requests. And what I'm concerned by is, one, you do one, then the rest keep asking. And the second problem, this is the real problem, we're spending $1.5 billion on the stadium, and that makes it almost politically impossible to say no to other requests. Hobart Clinic.
Yeah.
Literally, you need to give us this because you're spending money in the stadium.
Yeah, I would be... I'd be inclined... Yeah, exactly. You make a good point. I would put the Hobart Clinic in a different category because obviously a lot of what we're talking about here is the parent company can afford it, so why should it be on the state government? The Hobart Clinic's different to that, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, potentially, but I mean, it's the same.
It's still...
it's the same with public sector wages. It's like,
police knocked back a offer the other day, presumably thinking that, they can hold out for something something better.
So my concern is we're actually not going to see the spending reduction or the spending restraint that we need. Eric's trying, but we're not going to see it. We aren't seeing it. What we're eventually going to get, Beach, bad news to you and your fellow directors, is we are going to get those tax increases. Yeah. And again, as a Liberal, as a businessman person, I see that as being a bad thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's uplifting, isn't it?
Well, it's an interesting argument, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you throw in the fact that effectively the budget's been duck shoved until May, so we don't have a chance to stem the flow of cash now. Anyhow,
I mean, all this spending is off book. That's right. Off budget. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. In more cheerful news.
Yes.
Exciting. Brad, it's nearly that time of year. The Golden Font.
That's right.
Night of Nights.
That's right. Night of Nights. It's just a little over a month away. 19th of November.
Yep.
So last year, your mate, I think he's your mate,
My mate,
David
yep.
O'Byrne, was
He
the
is.
bookie's favourite
Yep.
and turned out to be the runaway winner of the prestigious prize.
Yep.
This year, look, he's had a solid year, but I'm not sure. I haven't done the book yet, a preliminary book. Alex does the book, to be clear.
Yep.
But I don't think he's quite so well positioned.
You'd have to be around the mark again.
Around the
Maybe
mark.
a Nick Dacos type,
Maybe. But certainly,
Always up the top of the
certainly not a
leaderboard,
runaway favourite at this point.
No.
Your mate, Dean Winter, who you caught up with the other day, as mentioned, I know you give him votes every year, I reckon.
Yeah.
What are you going to give him, -3
Would it be
this year?
harder for me to give one of the Lambies a vote or the contortions it would take to give Dean Winter a vote? That would be the question.
Well, yeah, we'll see. And no doubt, Brad, you'll dream up some reasons to vote for some Liberal apologists in the process.
The good money's
as well.
on Craig
So,
Garland, obviously.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
come there.
We'll come to that.
Yeah.
But it is, from a judging point of view, I take my role very seriously with the
I know.
Golden Font.
I know you do.
I do too.
I
Yeah.
do consult widely with.
How much weight do you put in good election results in an election year? Which obviously it was an election year every year.
I think you've got to look at the politician on the merits of what they've achieved politically and electorally. So I think you've got to put some value in that. That's for sure.
I think if you were to do the book now, I think Premier Jeremy Rockliff would be the odds-on favourite at this point, in my view. Like he's had a pretty good year, you'd have to
There
say.
you go. There'll be people running off to the bookmakers as we speak,
Oh, no.
Brad.
Well, if we had have said on Golden Font night last year that Jeremy Rockliff will lead the Liberals to the next election and get 40% of the primary vote, do you reckon we would have believed ourselves?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
So that alone gives him a good chance. But let's not spoil the...
No.
I mean, I haven't thought about my votes yet.
No, I can't.
I feel unencumbered. I feel like so free.
Yeah, no. It's an interesting year. It's not. It's from a.
Almost a year in two halves.
Yes, it is.
Maybe Dean would win the first half.
Yeah.
There's a reason to give him a vote. There you go.
God, Jesus.
Best on grounds early,
Yeah.
Won the Spirit clash.
Right.
40 possessions on the Spirit.
Faded at half time.
Hey,
Went missing.
Hey, you never know. He might come back, mate.
All right.
Anyhow,
Look,
let's
we will
Throwing
be-
the mouth guard at the umpire was a tactical error in the end.
We will be live streaming
Yes.
on YouTube this year. If you want to be part of a live audience, hit us up. It's always a great night.
Yep.
And finally, Sam, you did mention Craig Garland. He did get a vote last year.
I know. I gave it to him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Sure how that happened. Anyway, I have heard that Craig is hopeful of improving his votes this year and doing better than he did last year, which he may well do.
but
Well, if you're silly enough to let me get, who knows what?
Yeah. The issue is, though, small issue, he may not be eligible for the award due to his recent suspension.
Okay. Well.
Asterix.
Yeah.
Asterix, boom tish.
Yeah.
Those.
Oh, no.
Can you
Anyway.
please explain,
Yeah.
Beach?
yeah, he's been
He's
suspended.
He's got a restricted license.
He's got a restricted license. You probably can hear his coffee cup smashing to the ground.
Craig. For
Botched
those
I don't
listeners-
think the restricted license allows him to drive to the Golden Font.
I don't think it does. I think it only allows him to
Only for
drive.
No, hold on. Important parliamentary process.
No, literally, I was. So those that
it's
missed it, Mr. Garland did
He can get a lift. He'll be
lose his licence for being busted. Must have been over a year ago with a small amount of medicinal cannabis. He says in his system. Lost his licence this week for a period. I'm not sure.
6 months. I think.
6 months, and did get a restricted licence to drive between his home and Parliament, but no further. So
Yep. But
yeah.
he did, to his credit, apologise for
He
letting
did.
people down.
He did, and then he wants to change the law so he can keep on doing it. But
Okay. No,
Please don't consider this a comment on the court's decision because the restricted license makes sense, obviously. But from a content point of view, I thought strapping a GoPro to Craig Garland and seeing whether he could hitchhike to Parliament every week and the conversations that would ensue in the car would be some great Politaz content. Imagine that.
Imagine what he'd get up and
Can
talk about
Craig
in
get
Parliament.
Can Craig get to Parliament
Can he
on
make
time?
it? Yeah.
Check out the live stream.
Yeah.
So rather than a GoPro, just send a crew with a fully equipped truck, but they're not allowed to drive it. They follow it.
yes, maybe send Craig's advisors a bill, Alex. That's a great idea. All right.
All right. Yeah.
Just before we go, Beach.
One other thing,
yeah.
you've been reasonably chirpy today, Sam. How are you? How is the health? What's the current prognosis?
Well, I've had a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's my uncle who was the closest brother of my father, who I lost to suicide when I was 16, died of cancer. So that hit me quite hard.
Tough.
And he was, I loved him dearly. And so that was about the same time as I was getting a scan. And so, I was pretty nervous about the results, and they said, you'll be able to look at your results at 2:30 on this day. And we looked, obviously daylight saving had ticked over and it wasn't available until 3:30. So I'm sitting there hitting refresh. Come on, what? Anyway, we got and so the results were mixed again, but from my point of view, it's good in that there was some positive signs.
Good.
I'm still, it was about 12 months ago, I was told that I had a terminal illness. It was stage 4 cancer, and that I had 24 months to live. And that was obviously, I think, a worst case scenario, but I certainly don't feel like that's accurate at the moment.
Good.
So, we've seen some encouraging in terms of the activity of a lot of the lesions. There's been no progression. There's some things have still had a little, but there's been some things that have reduced in size.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened before, so I'm encouraged that what I've been doing, given that there's no conventional medicines that are curative for me, they're just things that are, will slow things down if it starts to go really badly. The fact that I've had to go and find this alternative path, and a lot of people told me I was crazy, and that it obviously, it doesn't. I'm very encouraged that the fact that I'm putting so much time and effort into it, that it is working. I just, the thing is, it's very expensive, and how long is it going to take if it's going to be this slow?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm still here, and I'm as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going anywhere. So
Great. Well, you're still here, and we love you for it.
and
Sam.
thank you to everybody who's been so supportive from this awesome community that we have that follow you guys. I'm blown away. Just the weird guy who makes silly wisecracks sometimes. That's been huge. So thank you so much.
All right.
Love you, mate.
Very good.
I couldn't agree more. On that note, FontCast is brought to you by Enterprise Market and Research Service, Tasmania's leading research providers. Thank you, Brad.
Must be a poll soon, yeah.
We're getting towards that time of the year, aren't we?
Yeah.
Check.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Don't forget, you can now catch us on our YouTube channel, FontCast. FontCast is produced and directed by Sam Eichen for Eichen Media. Until next time, carry on.